Live with April and Anjali. What are we talking about today?
Hey, I'm so curious to learn about the open space event that you hosted this past weekend. I was able to attend a couple sessions, and I'm always like fascinated with your relationship with open space because I have an interesting and slightly different relationship with open space. I love it, but not as much as you. So I'm curious as to how it went for you and like what does open space mean for you? Because I know it means a lot.
Well, um, in open space, there's so much freedom for me in it. It's where I first learned about the law of personal mobility. And through open space, I discovered what that meant. And I was able to take that and apply it to my life and how I engage professionally and personally. So that's why I have such a strong connection with open space. It was where I unlocked my potential.
I
So,
can see that because I mean I can see I see you just light up when you're facilitating an open space. So I like tell me what you see as personal mobility because I know some of the principles of open space and they resonate with me and I hear you when you're saying about how becomes part of your life. I find that I myself that empowers you to take what we do in an open space situation and really bring it into our lives. But when you say personal mobility, like what freedom did that give you?
to understand that truly that I control two things in life. I control what I think, how I think, and I control my own actions. I control my being. So that's my presence and how I show up. So when we think about the law of personal mobility, it's if you're not adding to value or receiving value, go to some place where you can
Yeah,
with your physical body, with your mental body,
yeah.
that you control it. So there is so much freedom in that to realize, wow, what you can control. I share that with my mentees as well about that, and it becomes life changing when
Yeah.
you can understand what's in your control.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I call it like responding from choice
Mhm.
rather than from obligation.
Mhm.
And it's so freeing. And so that when you're engaging in the situation, you're engaging wholeheartedly, right? So I know that you often hold space for other people in an open space situation so that they can have that law of personal mobility in an open space. What about in life? Like, what are some? Has there been like a story of where you have actually exercised personal mobility that might you might not have done if not for you having been exposed to open space?
It's so ingrained in every action that I do that it becomes easy to me. And it's not and some people who are really tied to what other people do, it may seem as cavalier or not caring.
Yeah,
Um, but within all things, you can I honor my mobility with love and respect and graciousness and just saying like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna go do something else. And that's
yeah,
okay. Um, and when with mobility and open space, so as you know that you mentioned the principles earlier. I believe all the principles have mobility in there. Because, for example, like who's ever there are the right people, that's honoring someone else's mobility. So I look at it, I think about, what are some of the things that drive people crazy, right? Planning parties. Like, who's going to
Yeah,
show up?
yeah,
Did I plan all of this and no one's going to show up? And they get really squirmish about it.
yeah,
And and they could feel some sort of way when the people don't show up. And I taught my children long ago is that they were like, "Oh, who's coming?" It's like, "Oh, whoever comes are the right people, and
yeah,
that's okay." And can trust that if someone's not here, that there's no ill intent. They may
yeah,
need to be someplace else, and we're okay
yeah.
with that. And I've learned early on, because I do remember like one birthday party, and then I got calls that I had planned for my child. Calls like, "Oh, can't make it, someone's sick," and it's numerous, and it ended up being us. And we just had a blast because we're very playful parents with them.
Yeah.
And at the end, like it was like someone who, like showed up late and like, oh yeah, hung
Yeah,
out a little bit, but was okay with it. They had fun. They didn't care about all of that. So I just have fun and enjoy who's ever here. So
totally.
we've always embraced that, and I'm happy that I was able to gift that to my kids and not um to no matter who was here, whether it's a lot of people or a little, they've just enjoyed and had fun and play with them and invest in those people.
Yeah. It's actually reminding me of a story of once I was hosting a Women in Agile meetup, and we decided to do it at the beach. And I bought like empanadas and drinks and all kinds of, food, because I thought it was such a fun way to have the Women in Agile event. And only one person showed up. But that person ended up becoming one of my closest friends. And she has attended a Women in Agile event ever since. I don't think maybe she's missed one or two. And that was such an example of whoever shows up at the right people, because for that day, she needed that.
Yeah.
And she showed up. I mean, it was, I mean, as you're saying, the meaning behind that principle, I can think of multiple situations where that has happened. And in hindsight, the gratitude for those that did show up.
Yeah. And I think about that one like party that I mentioned earlier for my son, and I believe it was his third birthday party, and we had like a train. It was like at the park, and we did special rented. Instead, like we had this private train all to ourselves. We were enjoying. We just invited other kids. As kids at the park. Kids don't
Yeah,
really care, right?
yeah,
Like and just had fun. And from other events that I planned, and then people are like, "Oh, who's here? I need to know who's here." I actually, when I do events, I said if people want to share who's here, that's fine, but I never like share the guest list because you decide for yourself, are you if you're the right person to be here, and that's okay. And people
yeah,
are always surprised in seeing how diverse of a space it is. Like you mentioned, the event, it was global. We had over 200 people from different countries show up, and that was beautiful. And other, women's events, like we just talked about, and had so many different people from
yeah,
in different backgrounds. They say, "I've never seen such a diverse event." And it's all about the invitation, inviting them, right? Whoever's there are the right people if they're invited. I want to make sure uh,
yeah,
that
yeah.
we
Yeah,
that we clarify that. Um,
yeah. They're invited, but they get to choose
mhm.
to show
They get
up
to,
and how they want to show up.
yeah,
Wow. So, April, I see you as like the holder of that open space philosophy for me, and I think for a lot of people. So, as we end today's live broadcast, like, is there some one thing that you want uh, people to take away from the simplicity of open space with the profoundness of open
Mm.
space?
One of the things that I would say is may you yourself figure out how you can be powered by that law of personal mobility so you can make decisions for yourself. Try to try to own that. And when you own that and play with that in all aspects of your life, I think you'll see that it's a catalyst for change in other places. So
Yeah,
that is my
that's
challenge for people today.
that's beautiful. Thank you, my friend. Hmm. Hey, and if you enjoyed watching this live with April and Anjali broadcast, then subscribe to our channel on YouTube and hit like. You can also follow us on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And hopefully, we'll see you again soon for another Live with April and Anjali.